Previously, the diamond necklace scandal shattered Marie Antoinette's reputation, but the storm was only beginning. The streets of Paris were seething, the people were starving, and the revolution was about to erupt. This is part 3, where the palace walls come crashing down and Marie Antoinette goes from being Queen of France to prisoner of the people. If you missed parts 1 and part 2, go watch them now to catch up, because now the real nightmare begins. In the year 1789, the French Revolution was raging. The people of France had had enough. Enough of starvation, of injustice, and enough of a queen who they saw as a symbol of everything that was wrong with France. So, on October 5th, a mob full of angry women marched to the gates of Versailles. They were screaming for bread and for the queen's head. Marie barely escaped with her life, fleeing through a secret passage as the mob ransacked and destroyed her rooms. They shredded her lavish silk bed hangings and stabbed her bed with knives. Eventually, the mob ended up finding them, and they dragged Marie, Louis, and their children back to Paris, parading them through the streets like criminals. Like animals. They were imprisoned in the Tuileries Palace surrounded by guards, trapped inside rooms that felt more like cages than royal chambers. But Marie, she wasn't done fighting. Oh no. In the year 1791, she and Louis attempted to escape back to Austria, her hometown. The plan was for them to disguise themselves as commoners, as peasants, and basically just go around unnoticed until they were able to escape. They got on a carriage and they were starting to escape, and everything was going well until they were recognized in the town of Versailles. The family was dragged back to Paris, and this time as traitors, and the public's fury was at a boiling point. By the year 1792, the monarchy was abolished, and Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette's husband, was put on trial, a trial where he would obviously be convicted and found guilty. And the punishment? It was death. Death by guillotine. And despite Marie's efforts and cries to try to save him, they didn't care. On January 21st, in the year 1793, Louis was marched to the guillotine. The crowd roared as the blade fell, and Marie, she was forced to listen from her cell, knowing her husband was dead. Can you imagine? That must have been so terrifying. Now it was her turn. Marie was moved to the conciergerie, a filthy prison cell that was crawling with rats. Her hair turned gray. Her body was frail, and she was forced to put on a plain black dress, a far cry from the extravagant gowns she was used to wearing. On October, in the year 1793, Marie was put on trial. What were her charges? Treason, conspiracy against the state, and the most despicable accusation of all, that she had abused her own son. The accusation was very much false, but it was enough to seal her fate. The jury deliberated for just one day before declaring her guilty. On October 16th, in the year 1793, Marie Antoinette was dragged through the streets of Paris in an open cart. The crowd screamed insults, calling her Madame Deficit, and much worse. Standing at the base of the guillotine, she accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot, uttering her last words. "Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose." Can you imagine? Even when she knew she was about to get killed, and she stepped on the foot of the person that was about to chop her head off, she still was polite enough to say, "I'm sorry," or "Pardon me, sir. I didn't mean to do it." Not me! I would have stepped on them toes even harder, like, yeah. I'm sorry. I would have been so mad. I would not, the first thing in my mind would not be to apologize. I would have stepped on your toe even harder. Like, I do not care. Like, you about to kill me. She was too nice. Too nice. Such a sweetheart, honestly. God bless her heart. Moments later, the blade fell. The crowd erupted in cheers, and the woman who had once been the Queen of France had just become another casualty of the revolution. Marie Antoinette was 37 years old. Her children faced tragic deaths after the fall of the monarchy. Marie Antoinette's eldest daughter, Marie Therese, was imprisoned with her mother after the royal family was arrested. She was eventually released in the year 1795 after the fall of Robespierre. She was later exiled to Austria, where she lived under the protection of her maternal grandfather, Emperor Leopold II. She never returned to France, and she lived in multiple European courts, often lonely and sorrowful. Eventually, she was married to her cousin, Louis Antoine, Duke of Angoulême. They never had any children, and she died in 1851. Now, Marie Antoinette's eldest son, Louis Joseph, died of tuberculosis in 1789 at the tender age of 7 years old. His death was a devastating blow to the family, and it was the turning point of Marie Antoinette's emotional state. Now, Louis Charles, the second son, was only 8 years old when his father, Louis XVI, was executed. After their capture, he was kept in solitary confinement in the Temple prison. The conditions were brutal, and he suffered neglect and abuse. Eventually, in the year 1795, he died of tuberculosis and malnutrition, and he was just 10 years old. Now, their fourth child, Sophie, she died at just 1 year old in the year 1787, before the revolution even took place. And her death really affected Marie Antoinette, adding to the many sorrows that she endured while being queen. The faith of Marie Antoinette's children highlights the immense tragedy that followed her downfall, but her legacy? That would live on, although it was twisted and reshaped by gossip, scandal, and propaganda. Was she truly a heartless spendthrift queen who ignored the suffering of her own people? Or was she a woman trapped in a world of excess and political intrigue, a victim of her own bad decisions and the wrath of a country in flames? Either way, her story was far from over, and for centuries to come, the world would still be asking the same question. Was Marie Antoinette the villain or the victim? The French Revolution might have torn her life apart, but her legacy still lingers in our history, reminding us of the dangers of power and the pricing of ignoring people's cries. So, what do you think? Was she really guilty of the extravagance and the neglect she was being accused of? Or was she just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. I would love to read your opinions. Anyways, my history friends, this is officially the end of this video. No more parts. This is the last part, okay? I'm really sorry I had to turn it into a 3-part video. It was just too long to edit. Thank you so much for staying with me and hanging out with me and learning about the story of Marie Antoinette. Now, next week on Sunday, we will be talking about someone really special. We will be talking about Wu Zetian, the Empress of China. Some people call her a tyrant, but what exactly did she do to deserve such title? Well, I guess we'll find out next week. With that being said, I just wanted to wish you a happy week. Be safe, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye!